Welcome back to the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Cassandra Rosa. I am an intuitive life and business coach and energy healer. And the mission of this podcast is to help you to create a fulfilling life and business. Today, I'm so excited to have Marla Warner on the podcast, and she's going to talk about how to best prepare for a branding photo shoot. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm so excited to be joined by Marla Warner. She is such a brilliant photographer and artist, and she's taken a bunch of my photos on Instagram and for my website and stuff like this. And we just vibe. Like, just from the moment I met her, I'm like, this is someone I need to collaborate more, not just with photography, but have her on the podcast. So first, I want to thank you, Marla, for coming on and being the first guest of
no problem.
Yeah,
Someone's got to be first.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So I just want to introduce her. She's based out of Toronto. She's a photographer. She is also a digital artist, and she's the owner of Rebel Howl. She's going to be talking a bunch about that, about her journey and some tips. And yeah, I'm really excited to kick this off with you. I'm like buzzing with all the energy today.
Excellent.
Yeah, so this is a new question that I really want to talk a lot about in terms of fulfillment and redefining fulfillment and what it means to all of our guests. So what does fulfillment mean to you?
Fulfillment. I mean, it means a multitude of things. Hilariously, the first thing that comes to mind is like fulfilling orders, but I know that the question is much deeper than that. But fulfilling orders can be pretty deep. And like, yeah, I think about, my first few sales and my first few bookings and like how that's connected to the fulfillment that I'm going to expand on in a much deeper way. That it's like, those were the first things where it's like, oh, this is really real. Like being an entrepreneur can be really real. So, as much as I sell prints and I sell photo work, sometimes you think that it's just a dream that maybe it'll never happen. And then you get that fulfillment order and you're like, oh, wow, this is really real. But on a more esoteric level, I mean, fulfillment to me is to always be at peace and to cause no harm. And I think those two things are what I use to guide everything that I do, that it's like, don't harm myself and don't harm others, and always, always protect my peace. And that has changed over the years. It's not a singular definition, but at the ultimate, that's always the goal. And so even in moments of strife, the idea of protecting my peace in those moments is not necessarily like this state of mind of peace, but more just like questioning and zeroing in on what do I need during this moment of chaos to protect my peace and continue forward in that sort of goal. So yeah, fulfillment for me are those two things. And I mean, they're pretty wide. It's a pretty wide net. So like, fulfillment can, within protecting my peace, can be like knowing where family and friends are and making sure that I'm reaching out if I need assistance. And having people really step up for me is very fulfilling and wonderful. But yeah, I think that, and like the basic needs, I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we forget our basic needs of just like making sure we're eating, making sure we're having, the right amount of water and et cetera, et cetera. And so that all adds to the fulfillment piece to me. Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love how deep that went and how it started with, what like a dictionary version of fulfillment would be. But in knowing you, it seems like once you get an order to fulfill, that's a way for you to help people be at peace. Cause I know I felt so at peace with you when I got my photos taken by you. I remember like freaking out initially, and then when we were there and then the zone, like it was amazing. And you in your element too. And you could see, I think what created the peace within me was you being completely at peace with what you were doing in the process, which was beautiful.
I
And
appreciate that. I'm really glad that that resonated because
yeah.
I do try to go into every photo session knowing full well that a photo session is a very it's subjective, right? So it's like I'm objectifying you, like I have essentially the power, quote unquote, because you're being stared at. And it's like I don't want people to feel that way because there's so much more to a photo shoot than just like snap snap or smile or look here. Like there's also just this representation of you. And yeah, and also, you know, being a Black woman, being in a larger body, I also had to go through that objectivity of photography and be like comfortable on camera. And especially when your appearance counters what is so conventional, you really have to get comfortable very, very quickly. And so, you know, peeling that back, I really had to learn that like I have a large amount of people that love me and they know what I look like. It's only surprising to me what I look like. And I always try to extend that to my clients that it's like, you're only surprised. So if you can love yourself as much as everyone already loves you, who knows exactly what you look like, because they've seen you 360 your whole life, then, you know, you can peel back something for yourself and learn to love yourself in another way that it's like, oh, this is what I look like. Okay, how do I feel about that? And is it bumping up against conventional beauty standards, which I'm going to swear are bullshit? Or is this like something that I'm uncomfortable with and maybe I need to work on, right? And it's like, that's the other piece. You don't have to just love your body. You can look at it and not like things and decide to change it. And that's okay too. But either way, you have to look at it. And so I understand that very sensitive topic and subject matter. And I always try to work within it rather than going back to it's more than just smile for the camera or look over here or look over here. It's much bigger than that always. And I want my clients to be at peace with themselves and myself and yeah, the whole scenario.
And being able to show up that way, that will allow you to feel like fulfilled in what you're posting online and like how you're showing up, and it becomes magnetizing. I remember, you know, we didn't intend to talk about this topic preparing for this interview, but I think this is exactly what it needs to be. I remember getting my photos back from you and, you know, with the pandemic, my physical appearance changing and kind of being a little bit like, oh my gosh, like this is what I look like. And having that, like, because of the beauty standards that are total BS, being like, oh, I should get her to tune this and to this and, you know, make these adjustments. Then I realized like, F it, like you have to, it's really a part of my brand in showing up authentically. And I remember we had this like deep, like Instagram voice note conversation back and forth, just like really talking about this discussion. And I think that that's a big part. I've known lots of my clients even preparing for a photo shoot, which is the topic we're going to talk about today, you know, getting in their head about this. So I think once you really embrace that part of you and who you are today and work with someone and a photographer, just like yourself, it will allow you to show up at peace and do what fulfills you and get out of your own way about the photos and really get to the root of who you are, how you want to show up and what you want to create, which is such a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And do no harm, right? Like that's why those are my two things, like do no harm. And often that do no harm, we're very good at not harming others, but like the terrible critical things we say to ourselves, like I always am checking that. And so that's why peace and do no harm are my two things, that it's like, this is who you are right now. And it's okay to own it. And it's really special because Lord knows we only get 80 years if you're lucky on this planet. And to be caught up in conventional beauty standards versus how you exist in this world is just such a waste of time when we really break it down. And if we can get there mentally, we can see that quickly.
Ooh, I love that. So like, what's the most fulfilling part of your business?
Well, great question. I mean, the business has taken on a lot of iterations. It's Rebel Howl started in 2016. It is nowhere near where it is now in 2022. And I don't know if your audience is entrepreneurs or if it's people thinking about getting into it, but the one thing I can say is where you start is not where you're going to end up, and be open to that change as a business owner. even without a pandemic, even without a pandemic having to pivot through. But what I will say is I never started it with the intention of where it is now, but I love where it is now. So for me, I've niched down a lot that I'm only offering services like headshots, branding, product photography for business owners, specifically for women. So I tried to do everything. I tried to be the photographer for everything: baby photos, maternity photos, family photos, weddings, portraits, headshots. Like I at first I offered it all, and then I started offering prints and mugs and beach towels with my product on them and photos on them, and it was great. And I found that the success of each one was equal to the amount of effort I was putting in. So because I had to be split, I got equal amounts of feedback. So at the end, I had to choose. And so I chose branding, portraiture, and art. And so that's where the business is now. And did you ask what the fulfillment was of both of them?
Like what is the most fulfilling part of it all?
Yeah. So the most fulfilling part in both of those arms are two different things, but kind of the same. And so the business stuff, now that I've niched down and I've created this special package, I really get to help women specifically build businesses that they can stand on, and like bring them ideas and aesthetics that they hadn't thought of before, or photos that maybe they hadn't thought of, as well as just like bringing them at peace with themselves and what they're doing. Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're looking around being like, is this gonna work or is this dumb? And like, and I can legitimize them and be like, no, this is a good idea. Like, you're onto something, keep going. And so that I find very fulfilling. I also really find fulfilling like how my clients take and use the photos. Like, you were one that was really great. And I love seeing all the variations in which you use the photos, whether it's for like a photo and then some print content. I really love seeing that. I have another client, Tamika, who also took the photos from our session and created all this branding material. And that I found really fulfilling, that I was like, this is good. This is what it should be. You should be able to use these photos to tell your story, not just have one photo that just shows you, which is great. And I get it. But, if we can expand and tell the story of your brand, I find that very fulfilling. And then as far as the art piece, I mean, it's always an honor when people want to bring your work into their home. I feel so special. And like, I feel like those moments of like spending the time to make the art is validated in a way that only people buying it and hanging it up could validate it. And I'm so appreciative of it always.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And even thinking about, the photos that you took for me and that I used, and sharing even kind of what we're talking about here today about beauty standards, it was like the photo was the visual part of the story for people and allowed an opportunity for the story to be passed down. And I remember just hearing all the feedback, and that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have our interaction and you didn't take that gorgeous photo that stopped people from scrolling, right? Because on socials, we're just scroll. So
and I like hearing that. And I also, I think that that's really important. Telling the story of your brand and telling the story of you is really, really important. It's the connection. It's real. Yeah.
So beautiful. Yeah. So I really want to talk about entrepreneurs, right? They're getting their photos taken for socials, they're getting it for their website. What is the most important thing that entrepreneurs can do to prepare for these photo shoots? Because what I've realized in getting my photos done by a few different photographers, like the prep is key to help you get the shots, to have the props, to have, the inspo, like all these different pieces. So I'd love to know from your perspective, what are a few things that they can do to set themselves up for success for the photo shoot that's going to allow them to tell their stories with all the people they're going to serve?
Yeah, I think that the main thing, more than anything, is to come with an idea of what you want, but to lower your expectations. And I say this to say, in the creative process of capturing photos, it's really important that we have like mobility to move the idea. If you come in with a photo and you're like, I want it to look exactly like this, I'm like, we could do that, but like, we could also come up with something really cool that as soon as we start working together, you might be like, oh yeah, this is way more who I am. And so yeah, having an idea and a framework is really, really great. And I often say like coming in with color swatches so you understand what your color scheme is really important. And we talk about that during the process. When I meet with you before we even get to shooting, we pick a studio that follows the aesthetic that you want, because that's a really important piece. And so once we're in the space, it's like we have now this kind of levity to create something really, really cool and very unique to you or your brand. And I think that's the most important piece, that we can come in with inspo photos, but I want you to be loose, because I'm gonna kind of take you through this and be like, okay, but like let's giggle and chuckle through this, or let's be really stoic in this moment. And yeah, we need room to do that. Sometimes when the pictures come in too specific, it's like, oh, but this isn't really you, like this isn't who you are, so like let's talk about who you are. So yeah, I think that that's the best preparation. The other preparation that I would say is get your hair and makeup done. If you can't do your hair and makeup, then get other people to do it. And not because you need to, but because you'll feel better. And don't go for anything too experimental in your look the days before. Like really come in looking like yourself. I often describe to clients that they should come in looking as if they're going to a wedding of like a distant cousin or maybe a coworker. So that way, you know, you should look put together. It should be a little bit elevated from a day-to-day work situation, but not so over the top that it's like full glam, unless that's your brand. If that's your brand, then let's do it. But if it's not, you should look like yourself and you should be comfortable. That's the most important thing. Don't wear clothes you're uncomfortable in. Don't wear shoes you're uncomfortable in. Come as you, and I promise we will get some epic photos. Epic photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And our shoot was a testament to that. I remember we had, you know, a couple different backgrounds, but then we looked over and we found like the sitting, remember like the sitting one with the chair and all this, all of a sudden that came to light, and those photos just felt like homey and very much like me. So be prepared for the unexpected. Yes. Do your mood boards. I remember I had like a huge Pinterest board and like the photos there, but sometimes the best shots can come from something of being present in the moment and uncovering, you know, something out of the box that you never thought. And I can be a
I think we had you sitting cross-legged, which wasn't on the mood board, but as soon as you sat down, I was like, this is the scene. Like let's take the book and put the book here against the roses, like this is the scene. And so yeah, it's true. And having again that fluidity, it really, really helps in the studio. Yeah. And you know, I think that at this point there are a lot of people shooting, and make sure that you vet your photographer. Like make sure you vet them and you read the reviews that people have left for them, and just make sure that they're legit and that you want to work with them. Check their personality. Like I'm currently developing my TikTok because I want to be honest. I want people to know exactly what they're getting. Like I don't sugarcoat anything, and like who I am on camera is very much who I am in person. And I can be really work to that. Yeah, I really work to commit to that, because I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to make you look pretty. Yeah. Use your intuition in the process. All of your spiritual entrepreneurs that are listening to that, like you'll feel the vibe, you know. That's what happened with us. I'm like, yep, I feel it. Like let's do it. And that will allow you to co-create, because it's a very co-creative process when you're doing something like this. So 100%. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
And that piece of getting your hair and your makeup done, like just get it a little bit more elevated than your day-to-day, I think is huge. I know I tried a different makeup artist and I looked good, but when I looked at the photos, I'm like, I don't look 100% like me, right? So that's really, really good advice.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about like the services that you have at Rebel Howl and how people can work with you if you're based in the Toronto area, or if
that would be awesome.
Art piece. Yeah.
Everyone can see my work at my website, which I think will be attached to this somewhere. And from there, you can reach me. You can also check me out on Instagram. I have two profiles. One is more art streamed and one is more portrait themed. The portrait themed one is new as of this year, so there's not many followers on there, but it's Rebel Howell Portraits or Rebel Howell Studios, which will show you all of the art side of the business and my art pieces and what I have coming up artistic wise. Yeah, and then from there you can pretty much see me on social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. Those two I keep up with the most, especially my Instagram stories. I post daily there. So if you want to know who I am, just follow my Instagram stories. You'll get to know me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as services, I'm going to continue into the new year with branding, portraits, and building with entrepreneurs. So I'm going to be looking for more small businesses that need batch amounts of content. And when I say batch, I mean, I finally found my niche that like 10 photos aren't enough. And so right now I'm offering a package with Cassandra's help because I asked you and you answered and I was like, okay, this is doable. So right now the package is 30 photos. Could I see that increasing into the new year? Highly likely. But I'm going to test this out and see how it feels and see how people are managing with 30 images, because it's also a lot on your guys' end that maybe we don't go that many photos. Maybe we do something smaller for a little bit cheaper for you to manage. So there's lots of options, but my main focus is entrepreneurship, business owners, small business owners, people who don't have time to be capturing their content or photographing their content in the best way possible. I also am in talks right now with a branding coordinator where she specializes in branding. So we might collab together and offer something. So if you have a promo that you might want to feature, she can handle the branding side. I can handle the photos. And between you, her, and myself, you can come up with something for your product that is really, really professional and really slick and affordable. Affordable is the goal. Yeah. As much as possible. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're going. And then the art piece, I designed an Oracle deck over the summer. So tarot cards. I'm still new to this world, but I hear that Oracle is different than tarot. So I just want to establish that I do know that. So that is going to come out at the end of next year. And in the process, I'm going to be expanding my art and putting it on glassware and coffee mugs. So that is the next product that I'm launching, specifically niching down. And I'm going to probably start those in about 2 weeks for Christmas. And then we're going to expand it all year, and the designs will get more complex and bigger and just see where it goes. So that's where I'm at artistic wise.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're Toronto based, definitely look into getting some photos with her. And if not, this is a few weeks ahead of Christmas by the time you're hearing this. So support her.
Yeah,
new
please. And I, even if you're in Toronto, I've had a few clients come up that were on vacation from the States or from out West, and they planned their shoots with me and it went great. And so that's also an option, but I am Toronto based. There's just a lot of really great studios here. So I pretty much try to stay here, and I've worked in a lot of them at this point that, I feel confident that I can find you a really beautiful space to get your content made. So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there any last words that you want to wrap up with for all the?
I think that's about it. I mean, good luck to all you fellow entrepreneurs. I hope that you keep going. Just keep going. Like Dory said, that's all you can do. Just keep going. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Marla.
No problem. Hey, everyone.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I'll upload a new video on Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye.